Hey, everybody, greetings, and I've got some explaining to do here. Okay, the most recent, actually two videos that I put up are identical. The only thing different is the title and the the number 20 about Scotland. I had a lamest title on that. And it didn't get many views, but those who did watch it went, wow, that's really a great story because it is a great story. It's how I met the prototype character who inspired the James Bond character. I met the real guy in real life, heard about his commando adventures in World War II, his friends Winston Churchill and Ian Fleming, chasing women, parachuting in behind enemy line. I mean, you name it. And being instrumental in the Allies winning the first victory ever at El Alamein against Erwin Rommel, the Desert Fox Nazi. And nobody's bothered to tune in and watch it. So I tried to put the same thing up, but with a better title, just to see. So if you already saw it, you might not want to see it again. So I'm explaining and apologizing because I don't have that many stories left that are that good. And I realized, you didn't get past the cover. Okay, so let's talk about a couple of other things here to make this one worthwhile now that you've got my apology and explanation. And I hope you cats who haven't read number 20 we'll look at 20 or 21, 20A, I think it is. I don't know what the heck. So people have asked me along the way with the comments, which I really appreciate. Several quote, did you really design all that stuff? And it's like, yeah, it's really fun. And what I mean is everything. The circuit, and again, these circuits evolve. You don't start with nothing and come up with something. For example, look at the history of the Mark amplifiers. You can see a lineage of evolution through them. And of course, they start with the basic Fender circuit, which is where Marshall started, and it's really it's really the source of everything. So I humbly stand on Leo Fender's shoulders, or whoever was responsible for designing the original amplifiers. And again, a lot of it is just standard technology, but a couple of things are really unique. The tone control circuit and the way the output tubes are wired so that the screen grids have so much more voltage on them than is typical in an audio situation. So let me well, okay, we'll design. Oh, geez. One thought leads to another because I wanted to talk about in answering some of the questions that people say, well, how do you come up with these ideas? Well, I just kind of mentioned it. The output circuit here with 6L6s. Okay, here's the deal about 6L6s. They're introduced in the mid 1930s, and they're still unsurpassed for audio. I can't think of many products that have ever had that longevity and still being basically the state of the art. Okay, a vacuum tube has several elements, and one of them is a screen grid. And the screen grid works as an accelerator to make the tube much more sensitive. And so what it does is it draws electrons to the plate, but it doesn't, that's all it does is it gives them a positive attractive field, but there's nothing there. There's just a thin coil of wire, so the electrons think they're going to go to it, but they go right past it to the plate, which is right behind it, which is the big solid element you see, and that's where the actual power is developed. So what occurred to me was, wow, the reason why guitar amps using this higher voltage on the plate sound so lively is because of that, because this catalyst, this accelerator grid, the screen grid, is really all important. So what I'm thinking is like, well, can't we make this more dynamic? And so I came up with this idea that we ended up calling Dyna-Watt. And what it does is instead of just having a fixed, solid, stiff voltage on the screen grid, what I wanted it to do was have that voltage go up and down. And when it goes down, the sensitivity of the tube goes down. When it's up, the sensitivity goes up. So it starts high, which is where they are in normal amplifiers. Then there is, unlike Fenders and everything else, they have a filter choke in the power supply that basically only drops the voltage about 2 or 3 volts from the plate and it stays there, stable and solid. What I wanted is to have it have this great big sag and then come back up. And then that I was thinking was, well, that might really enhance the dynamics. So what I did, instead of a filter choke, which has a DC resistance of just a few ohms, I put a big resistor in there, like hundreds of ohms. It depends on the amp, 1,500 ohms or so. And then a big capacitor, which holds that charge and then discharges at a certain time constant. And then I got to worrying. I thought, oh, well, wow, different styles are going to want a different time constant. So when I was developing this, I set it up on a resistor, switchable resistor, where I could just fan through all these different resistor values by turning a switch, like an 8-position switch. And that would change this time constant. And what I was really pleased to see is that, number one, it really did enhance the dynamics. And number two, everyone, no matter what style they played, all preferred the same time constant. That was a huge relief. So here's how it worked. So a guy's playing the guitar and he's going, yeah, I like that, but that's pretty stiff. And a really precise studio musician would like that because it's very revealing. Then as I increased this time constant, so there was more dynamics and more of a time where it went bwah, 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 instead of just bap, bap, bap. People say, oh man, what's happening? My guitar's getting easier to play. Oh my God. And then, oh Jesus, all falling apart. Now it's just all mushy. So back up again. And everybody kept picking the same value, which really made me super happy, because I didn't want a controllable switch on the amp. I just wanted it to work. So one guy said it really best. He said, wow, in that stiff position, it's really revealing. And it shows my mistakes and sloppiness. Then when I got it to what we ended up with as the Dyna-Watt value, said, now my mistakes are expressive. They don't sound like mistakes anymore. The other thing that we tried to do, and Doug West, bless him, Tone Boy, he's tone adolescent now. He is so sensitive and so perceptive. Now, of course, we've been doing this now for 40 years. One of our big things is, does the amp invite you in to play? So he'd come in cold in the morning and it's like, oh man, yeah. It's like I picked up my guitar and it's already warm. I'm already warmed up. It's already telling me, yeah, you're playing good. Now, as a horn player, again, I'm not a guitar player, but as a horn player, man, I'm really sensitive to that. And that was one of the problems with a saxophone, is that the reed is always changing. And man, you got a good reed and your chops are up, it's wonderful. But if you don't, you're fighting it. And that's, a good musical instrument is something that enables and supports your ability to play above your ability. We had a great friend of ours, Greg DiBenedetto. He was key in the magazine publishing industry. And he was an East Coast Marshall guy. Nothing wrong with that. And he came out and tried one of these earlier Dyna-Watt amps, and in fact, I'll show it to you in a minute. He said he was just playing unbelievably, and he said, I don't know what's happening. I don't know. I've never played like this before. There's something magic. And we were floored. He was a decent player, but he was playing above and beyond. He said, I don't know what happened there. I was playing so far above my normal skill level. And we said, bravo, that's our goal. That's what we're trying to achieve here. And he said, it just was so easy. It was so easy to play. Now, think about the magic there. Because the guitar didn't change. The action didn't get lower. The strings didn't get lighter. The guitar never changed. And yet it went from, oh God, this is stiff, I'm fighting it, to it's like, oh man, I'm playing. Oh, this is, the barriers are down. I'm just in the zone and I'm grooving and I'm not fighting. I'm thinking music rather than I'm thinking struggle. Okay, so it's extremely gratifying, and we've done that on so many amps. That goes all the way up to the Mark 8 has that, or excuse me, the Mark 7. We haven't gotten to the Mark 8 and never will. But the other guy said, did you do the chassis? And I said, yeah, I love doing chassis. And look at this. Is this a retro cool, this is fun. Designing this, because, I'm an old car guy too. and started out wrenching on a 39 Ford. And up on my ranch, there's an old Dodge pickup that it's just been abandoned out in the woods, and it's, so I was just looking at the grills between the 39 Ford and the Dodge, and that kind of inspired this decorative stuff. Now this is the TA-15, and look at this. This is, again, and I wanted a handle, but I wanted the handle to disappear. So, it comes up. There it is. You carry it, and then bam, it's out of the way. Even the back, I get off on designing this stuff. The graphics on the back, the wings, the logo, the wings. Again, the Mesa logo. Yeah, shoot, I designed that. I laid that out on the kitchen table in Lagunitas decades and decades ago. At any rate, what a lot of fun. Now that amp, that TA-15, maybe I ought to hold it up again. Inside that is packed. The transatlantic, what that means is it's paying homage to Leo Fender and to Vox. So channel 1 over here is British. It's really Voxy. Channel 2 over here is really Fendery. And using these switches, you can get into the Marshall version of the Fender basic concept. Yeah, we kind of overshot the mark, which we often do because we want to give everybody everything, and we just keep coming up with so many good ideas. Yeah, let's do that. Yeah, let's do that. Its big brother, the TA-30, Steve Mueller's favorite amp, and it's a tone monster of an amp. It does the same thing. It has a British channel, like very Voxy, and it has an American channel. That's why it's called transatlantic. And again, in our cool store that we had for 25, 30 years or so down in Hollywood, I said, well, how's that selling? He said, it's a great amp, but it's over the mark. They said, you should have just made it one channel or two channels that are the same, because people pick one and they love it. Now, people that really get into that amp actually can use all of the stuff in there, but a lot of people, like the store guy said, hey, the guys that are buying these Vox amps back there several years ago, it's a fashion statement. And they aren't even that good of players. They don't need to be. It's rock and roll, and you kind of overshot the mark. Okay, so that was Dyna-Watt, and that's something that we've kept going on for a long, long time. Again, I could go on forever, but I want to talk to Simulclass. People have asked about that. People, there's all kinds of stuff that I'd like to get into. But what I want to end with is to tell you what I've been doing on the videos is I leave some of the best to the last. And I've been looking at what people do, and a lot of people don't ever make it to the end. Like half of the people get halfway through and tune out. I get it. Everybody scroll crazy looking for the next, little hit and so on and so forth. So I may do some of these over again, at least some of the back parts, because I'm looking at it. There's like, half of the people never got to the end where I've saved the best part. And that's full circle here. What was the matter with the previous video was that I started out slow and I built to a crescendo where this guy was the original OG James Bond. And nobody bothered to tune in on it. The views were almost nothing, comparatively speaking. And I thought, oh, yeah, look at the title here. I met our distributors in Scotland. Yeah, who cares about that? Well, I do. And I want to give a shout out to Bill Hedgie, who was the repair tech for West Side Distribution. Johnny X and Phil Hay, great bunch of guys. And Billy, thank you for all of the years of wrenching boogies and keeping everybody happy. All right, I hope this explanation was somewhat clear. You see the joy I got out of designing all of this stuff. I'll be back because, there are questions, Simulclass, and there's more racing stuff. We haven't gotten to Formula One. There's still all kinds of stuff going on. So with that, I'll see you later.